Welcome, dear reader, to the worst language class I have ever attended. And also welcome to diary entry number 1. Why don't you settle in for a little while and I can tell you about this class right here. So for a little context, I have studied Chinese for 5 years now, and off and on I have studied Korean on my own. I've completed the Talk to Me in Korean level 1, I got halfway through level 2, and I gave up multiple times throughout the years. And so when I heard that there was a language class here in New Zealand online that I could attend every week, and the only requirement was actually turning up for the class, of course I signed up. And maybe I've had such a good run with Chinese that I set my sights a little high for my Korean studies, because the class left me maybe more than a little heartbroken, and it definitely made me question whether I even wanted to continue learning Korean. So before we get into what went wrong, and don't worry, we will get into that in all of the grisly details, my dear friend, let me tell you first instead about why I wanted to study another language and why Korean. Growing up, my love language was always words. I read a lot, I spoke quite a lot, and I came to love being able to express myself with words that would surprise people. And then that started transforming into being able to surprise people by speaking a different language. So in primary school, I learned Tereo, I learned Spanish. Then in intermediate, I moved on to French, and in high school, I tried out Russian. And then it came to university, and I realized I hadn't studied a language for quite a while. And so, lo and behold, my longest relationship with a language began, and that was with Chinese. Around this time, however, I actually met a very dear friend all the way in Copenhagen, and she was very much into K-pop. And so, dear reader, I'm sure you can see where this is going. I too fell down the rabbit hole. It all started with the BTS video Carpool Karaoke, I believe it's called, and I have not been the same ever since. And so I started learning Korean simply because I wanted to be able to watch these variety shows without subtitles. And so I tried again and again and again, and it just never stuck. And now, as I've gotten older, I've come to realize the problem is I need structure. I need a class that I attend, I need homework, and I need to be graded. I need to feel that stress to actually keep going. And so that's what I was always lacking with my self-studies in Korean. I had the drive, I had the want, but I didn't have that pressure. And theoretically, that was what this class was meant to give me. Now, I say theoretically for a reason, because in theory, this class was meant to be great. It was meant to be everything I needed it to be. However, as much as I wish I could say the class went well, and I really wanted it to go well, it did not. Honestly, it might have been the weirdest class I have ever been a part of. On one hand, we were told that we'd be learning the first 5 vowels of the Korean alphabet. But on the other hand, we were asked to introduce ourselves with as many Korean words as we knew, and we were quizzed on things such as the day after New Year's Day in Korea. There was just this real misunderstanding between perhaps what they expected us to know and what we actually knew. And that left a lot of us feeling disappointed and quite disheartened actually, because it made us feel like we didn't understand anything. Part of that is because of the way the teacher reacted, and I suppose part of that is just that's how first classes can go. But truthfully, myself and a friend who attended with me agreed that we didn't want to spend 2 hours a week in a class that left us feeling like we were doing something wrong and spending all week trying to catch up. So we decided that we would go to one more lesson, and then we would decide if we were continuing or if we would be writing an email resignation almost. And so we studied. For the week between our first and our second class, we revised what we learned in our first class, and we tried to prepare for our second class as best as we could. And I think that paid off, because the second class, it wasn't perfect, but it was a lot better. There were still some very odd moments that perhaps I wouldn't expect from a teacher, and things were still hard to understand at times. But it was a slower pace, and the explanations were slightly better. I think it helped that when we went into breakout groups, we were paired with one of the helpers who is an absolutely wonderful teacher. But I felt like I actually gained something from this lesson. I feel like my speaking improved, because before this, my Korean speaking was non-existent. So it wasn't perfect, but it was good enough. And now I've decided I'm going to continue. Not because I think I'm going to learn the whole Korean language from this class, let alone because it's perfect and it's going to help me achieve fluency. But it's good, and it's an amazing resource that has been offered to me. I still have the dream of being able to understand Korean content without subtitles. And that dream is even expanded into wanting to visit Korea and have enough Korean to get around without that anxious knot in your throat of knowing that you don't have the language abilities to communicate with the local people. It may take me quite a while to get there, and this class will not do it all on its own, but I will get there, and I'm proud of that. So thank you, dear reader, for joining me on this little language journey, and I hope to see you again for the next one.